The Crownless Path, a dialectic in 5 movements tracing exile and return through memory, betrayal, and quiet moral reckoning. Dilshad Meriwani returns to Erbil on this day, a restoration of presence where absence was imposed. It turns August 31st from a date of betrayal into a day of remembrance, of return, not by force but by breath, by word, by image. Meriwani's spirit, long denied a grave, now finds a place in the stones of old houses of Erbil, not through politics but through poetry. And I, his brother, have made that return possible. Introduction: The Archive of the Unreturned. Written on the morning of August 31st, 2025, the day Meriwani returned to Erbil in breath. He walked Erbil with the eyes of a future witness, not to possess, but to preserve, not to archive for glory, but to remember for return. In the 1970s, he moved through the city like a whispering scribe, recording the barbers and farriers, the street vendors and corner shops, the alleys that curved like veins through the old heart of the city. He captured the trades, the gestures, the songs. He recorded the folk melodies that rose from Erbil's breath, as if he knew one day he would need them to find his way back. He was building a map, not of streets, but of soul. A guide for the exiled, a memory for the silenced. And when they came for him, they took the tapes, the reels, the recordings. They entered his home not to arrest a man, but to erase a return. They destroyed the archive, but they could not destroy the intention. For what he recorded was not just sound, it was longing. And longing once spoken cannot be unspoken. Today, he returns, not in body, but in breath, not in procession, but in presence. The alleys remember him. The songs hum beneath the dust. The trades he recorded have changed, but the echo remains. He returns not to reclaim, but to remind that memory is a form of justice, that silence is not the end, that Erbil, even wounded, still sings. The unrooting, Erbil before speech, Erbil as ache. I was sent away in 1982, not for violence, but for remembering too clearly. The border did not mark geography, it marked forgetting. And I crossed it with my name intact, but my belonging undone. They said exile was a place, but I learned exile is the absence of a place that still speaks inside you. I carried Erbil in the soles of my feet, in the way I pronounced longing, not as nostalgia, but as unfinished grammar. The city was not behind me, it was beneath me, like a buried vowel waiting to be unearthed. The Unreturned, Meriwani as silence, Erbil as withheld breath. You took you, not to silence your voice, but to erase the echo it had already become. No body, no grave, only the rumor of a scream that once taught us how to pronounce dignity. I searched for you in the archives, in the footnotes of the regime's forgetting. But you were not there. You were never meant to be remembered by those who feared your memory. Erbil did not mourn you. It was not allowed. The city wore its grief like a hidden scar beneath the citadel stones. And I, who exiled in breath, found you exiled in dust. Not gone, but unreturned. The betrayal of return. Erbil as packed, as forgetting dressed in triumph. The gate opened, not to welcome the exiled, but to crown the architect of our annihilation. They called it strategy. I called it forgetting. August 31st arrived like a parade with no mourners. The city did not weep. It applauded. and the applause sounded like the closing of a tomb. I returned, but the soil did not recognize me. The olive trees had learned new names. The alphabet had been redrawn by the same hand that once erased it. They said, "We must survive." I said, "But who are we if survival costs our memory?" Erbil stood, not as witness, but as host. And I, who had carried its ache across borders, found myself a stranger in the myth I had kept alive. The quiet reckoning. Erbil as mirror, as moral witness. What is rule when it is built on the bones of the betrayed? What is legitimacy when it borrows its breath from the architect of people's annihilation? I walked the streets of Erbil not as citizen, but as question. The stones did not answer. They remembered. The citadel stood, ancient and indifferent, watching us barter memory for power. They said, "We must survive." I said, "But who speaks for the unreturned?" Meriwani's name was not inscribed. His absence was not mourned, and the silence became policy. I did not seek vengeance. I sought reckoning. Not in tribunals, but in the trembling of our vowels when we speak his name aloud. Erbil did not answer. It waited. The return that waits. Erbil as vow, as breath that refuses forgetting. You were not returned, but you were never gone. I speak your name not to summon you, but to remind the soil that it once held a man who taught us how to stand. Erbil does not wait for kings. It waits for those who remember without permission. I walk its streets not as victor, but as witness. The stones do not bow. They listen. And I, who once crossed borders with your memory folded in my pocket, now return not to reclaim, but to remember. Return is not arrival. It is the refusal to let forgetting become law. The image is drawn from the Sacred Five and the mythic dialectic of return, exile, memory, breath, and silence. It centers a 7-petaled flower, each petal a breath, each breath a memory. The dove and hand flank the circle like witnesses. One carries the silence of flight, the other offers the gesture of return. Above, the arched flame rises. 3 tongues of longing, 5 lines of becoming. The whole emblem rests on textured parchment, as if inscribed by wind.